Timbales or pailas are shallow single-headed drums with metal casing. They are shallower than single-headed tom-toms, and usually tuned much higher. The player uses a variety of stick strokes, rim shots, and rolls to produce a wide range of percussive expression during solos and at transitional sections of music, and usually plays the shells of the drum or auxiliary percussion such as a cowbell or cymbal to keep time in other parts of the song. The shells are referred to as cáscara, which is also the name of a rhythmic pattern common in salsa music that is played on the shells of the timbales. The shells are usually made of metal, but some manufacturers offer shells of maple and other woods. The heads are light, and tuned fairly high for the size. Nomenclature. The term timbal or timbales has been used in Cuba for two quite different types of drum. Timbales is the Spanish word for timpani, an instrument that was imported into Cuba in the 19th century and used by wind orchestras known as orquestas típicas. These were the same general type of drum used in military bands, perhaps slung either side of a horse, and in classical orchestras. These were, and are, played with mallets. The timpani were replaced by pailas criollas, which were originally designed to be used by street bands. Pailas are always hit with straight batons that have no additional head. Hits are made on the top and on the metal sides. In a modern band, the timbalero may also have a trap set to switch to for certain numbers. Since the term timbales is used to refer to both timpani and pailas criollas, it is ambiguous when referring to bands playing the danzón in the 1900 to 1930 period. If one does not have a photograph, it is difficult to know which drum a band used. In French, timbales is also the word for timpani, thus the French refer to Cuban timbales as timbales latines. In Brazil, the term timbal refers to an unrelated drum. Timbalitos. Timbalitos or palitas are small timbales with diameters of 6 inches, 8 inches, or 10 inches. The timbalitos are used to play the part of the bongos with sticks that are not used to play the traditional timbales part. Papito and Manny Oquendo were masters at playing the bongo part on timbalitos. Timbalitos are sometimes incorporated into expanded timbales setups, or incorporated into drum kits. Traditional use. Baqueo. The basic timbales part for danzón is called the baqueo. In the example below, the slash note heads indicate muted drum strokes, and the regular note heads indicate open strokes. The danzón was the first written music to be based on the organizing principle of sub-Saharan African rhythm, known in Cuba as clave. Timbales bell patterns. During the mambo era of the 1940s, cowbells were mounted on the drums. The cowbells, or wood block, may be mounted slightly above and between the two timbales a little further from the player. The following four timbal bell patterns are based on the folkloric rumba cáscara part. They are written in 3-2 clave sequence. In the 1970s, José Luis Quintana Changuito developed the technique of simultaneously playing timbal and bongo bell parts when he held the timbales chair in the song band Los Van Van. The example below shows the combined bell patterns. Due to the timbalero Tito Puente, it is now acceptable for a player, especially a band leader, to use more than two timbales, and a great timbal solo is quite a spectacle. Puente was frequently seen in concerts, and on posters and album covers, with 7 or 8 timbales in one set. The timbales were occasionally expanded with drum kit pieces, such as a kick bass, or snare. By the late 1970s this became the norm in the genre known as song. Changuito and others brought rumba and funk influences into Timbales playing. In the contemporary timba bands, many drummers use a Timbales drum kit hybrid. Calixto Oviedo uses this modern timba setup, and is a master of expressing funk with a Timbales sensibility. Solos Típico style. The original style of soloing on timbales is known as típico. Manny Oquendo played timbales solos, famous for the tastefully sparse, straightforward típico phrasing. The following 5-measure excerpt is from a timbales solo by Oquendo on mambo. The clave pattern is written above for reference. Notice how the passage begins and ends by coinciding with the strokes of clave. Rumba quinta rhythmic vocabulary. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, some timbaleros, particularly Tito Puente, began incorporating the rhythmic vocabulary of rumba quinto into the solos. Non-traditional use. Drummer John Dolmayan of System of a Down is known for using 2 mini timbales in his kit. Also, Bud Gore of Sublime and Long Beach Double Stars used a single, high-pitched timbal on his drum kit to the left of his snare during his years with those bands. Bud used his timbal usually for accents and transitions, especially in the more reggae-influenced songs, but it is used exclusively in place of the snare on the song Waiting for My Ruka, from 40 ounces to Freedom and Stand By Your Van. He has not used the timbales in his recent bands Eyes Adrift and Del Mar, possibly due to the lack of reggae influence in those bands. The Ohio University Marching 110's drum line features 4 sets of timbales in the place of quads or quints. They are one of the very few marching bands in the country to still employ timbales in the drum line. They also employ 4 sets of dual tom-toms to play the la lines that a quad or quint would cover. A recent offshoot of the Washington, D.C. funk genre of go-go known as the bounce beat features timbales as a predominant instrument. Dave McIntosh uses a pair of 8 inches diameter attack timbales 9 inches and 11 inches deep made by Meinl Percussion to produce a similar sound to a pair of octobans. Meinl also produce a set of mini timbales of traditional depth but 8 inches and 10 inches diameter, also suitable for drum kit usage. Genres. Timbales are traditionally played in danzón, mambo, cha-cha-cha, pachanga, descarga, salsa, songo, timba, Latin jazz, Latin rock. Other Latin music genres such as cumbia sometimes incorporate this instrument in lieu of the traditional percussion. Many rock bands have included it in the rhythm section despite not playing Latin rock. Notable timbaleros.